Swadee Kha, very good evening and welcome to Thai PBS World Tonight.
Swadika, good evening, and we do hope that you have had a great weekend and a great start of the week. And kicking off the program tonight with the latest development on the killer cop case back in August, in which a cold-blooded murder of a drug suspect was seen in a leaked and widely shared video, if you can still remember. So today, the Attorney General prosecuted former police Colonel Titisan Uttanapon, and of course, a lot of us know him as Joe Ferrari, and 6 other former police officers on multiple charges, including premeditated murder by means of torture, malfeasance in office, illegal detention, and coercion. The group of 7 ex-cops from Nakhon Sawan seen in the video to have suffocated a suspect to death with several plastic bags is facing only the death penalty if found guilty of premeditated murder and not just imprisonment, as the Attorney General decided to act upon the police recommendations of using a different law to punish them. So soon after the incident, the 24-year-old victim was later sent to the district hospital where he was pronounced dead. A subsequent autopsy also confirmed that he died of suffocation. Titisan, or Joe, was also under investigation for his unusual wealth, reportedly earned from rewards he received from the Customs Department for the seizure of hundreds of luxurious cars reportedly smuggled into Thailand from Malaysia. And police also found several expensive cars and 18 firearms at his mansion in a Bangkok suburb. So we have talked about him before, and there have been a lot of skepticism if, justice will really be served and seen through, because it's a common belief in Thailand that the rich, the powerful, and the well-connected often get away with crime. So we have to wait and see, but this looks like a positive development.
Right, and now let's move on to the latest about last night's anti-establishment protest, where recently the Metropolitan Police Bureau has denied that they've used live bullets against the protesters. At least 2 protesters were reportedly shot in front of the Police General Hospital as the rally participants were marching from Pathumwan intersection to the German embassy on Sathorn Road. And the 2 victims are the 23-year-old and a 33-year-old. And at a press conference this morning, Deputy Commissioner and spokesman for the Metropolitan Police Bureau, Police Major General Jirasan Gaosang-ik, today said the police did not use live rounds and any other lethal weapon against the protesters late yesterday afternoon. Police Major General Jirasan said that there were loud explosive noises, then crowd control police moved in to restore order, during which police fired rubber bullets and 2 protesters were injured. He claimed that wounds looked like they were caused by rubber bullets and that police have been trying to ascertain the type of weapon used in the shooting. And after the incident, the group marched on to the German embassy, and the group's representatives submitted a letter to an official of the German embassy as well. The protesters, many of them riding motorcycles, started gathering at about 3 p.m. in front of the Bangkok Art and Culture Center. Then they hanged and burned effigies of the 9 constitutional court judges in protest at the court's ruling. So one of the protest leaders announced that the group was at the embassy, quote unquote, to protect Thai politics under a democratic system with the king as the head of state, and that any of the authorities who try to obstruct them will be regarded as rebels. So basically, the protest last night was actually rooted from the Constitutional Court's ruling against their call for a monarchy reform last Wednesday, right, where 3 of the protest leaders were guilty of the speeches they made last August for the monarchy reform.
Exactly. Well, this looks like, of course, intensifying tensions and that none of the sides, neither of sides are yielding to one another. And, it only, as you said, the verdict really angers a lot of people out there. fighting for this movement, for pushing for reforms. But of course, this is a divisive issue, isn't it? Like in a lot of political issues where the other side would think that maybe this serves them right and it will be the end of their movement. But of course, this last night is a proof that this would not end anytime soon. So we'll keep seeing this tension rising.
Exactly. Even though the 3 protest leaders were asked not to go further with their speeches, anything related to the monarchy reform, the followers, especially those who have called themselves anti-establishment protesters, will still continue going on the streets demanding for justice as well.
Right. And in another political development is not directly linked, but with some connections as well to all of this, is that tomorrow a constitutional amendment draft written by reformist groups, including the Resolution and ILO, which also was signed by more than 150,000 people in petition, will be submitted to Parliament for debate. And this version is dubbed the People's Version, as opposed to the political parties' drafts, which were submitted back in June this year, but most of them were already rejected in Parliament. So the key takeaways of this draft is that they are seeking only one House of Parliament by abolishing the Senate completely and only maintaining the House of Representatives with increasing role for the MPs to check the performance of the cabinet. That would be, according to the proposal, a complete overhaul of the Constitutional Court. And these people will, the Constitutional Court judges will be nominated by different parties, and the MPs will be the ones voting for them. All members of the charter-mandated independent organizations will also be automatically relieved of their positions as soon as this draft is enforceable. And they're also seeking to remove sections 257 up until 261 of the existing charter. This in regards of national strategy and reforms, as well as the other key point is that all orders issued by the coup makers since the coup back in 2014, which was 7.5 years ago, would be nullified eventually. But according to former election commissioner Somchaisi Sutiakon, there is only a slim chance that the People's Constitution draft will actually be approved by the majority of the appointed senators. Of course, no one would want themselves removed or their powers removed. So this is a big obstacle because they need the support of more than half of the legislators in the 2 houses, including at least 84 senators.
And now let's move on to tourism. So it has been 2 weeks since Thailand reopened to international travelers on November 1st. So far, it has attracted more than 44,000 travelers so far. And we may expect that many of the cities that reopened to foreign tourists would see a lot of them coming, but for the usually popular beach town of Hua Hin in Prachuap province actually saw the opposite. They actually saw only 8 travelers so far. May I repeat, only 8 travelers. And that is completely unexpected here, despite that this town is very popular among locals and foreigners alike. So according to Prachuap provincial health office, these tourists entered the country through the Thailand Pass, and so far Out of the 8 foreign travelers, none of them have been found to be infected with COVID-19. President of the Thai Spa Association, Grodrojanasatien, who was among the main drivers for the Hua Hin recharge scheme, admits that the number of foreign tourists in Hua Hin is much lower than initially anticipated. He suggests that the government should resolve issues surrounding the use of the Thailand pass, such as the uploading of documents, which are currently slow, switching from RT-PCR tests to antigen tests, as well as allowing direct flights to Hua Hin as well. At the same time, the vice president of the Thai Hotels Association, Udom Si Mahachota, who is also an advisor to the Hua Hin Cha'am Tourism Association, revealed that the hotel bookings for November and December, especially among small and medium-sized hotels, are very low compared to the year before. And so far, with the whole reopening to international travelers, out of 44,000 tourists, only 52 tourists have been found to be infected with COVID-19, and this accounts for only 0.12% of all the international arrivals since November 1st. The government also announced that the flights from Europe and the Middle East arriving in Thailand have increased. And according to Aerothai, or the Aeronautical Radio of Thailand company, expects the number of international flights to increase to an average of 990 flights per day, up by 25% compared to last month. And the government spokesman also stated that the overall COVID-19 situation in the south has improved, and the government aims to reopen borders in the region at the end of this year. So even though there are good signs about the COVID-19 situation, as well as the Thailand's reopening to foreign travelers, but Hua Hin doesn't really enjoy the same thing, with only 8 travelers so far.
Wow. Well, actually, Hua Hin is not really that popular among foreign tourists to begin with. Is more for domestic travelers, and maybe because it has been, marketed as such for quite a while. But it's a bit, shocking or disappointing. Also, a bit depressing. Yep. So let's move on to something much more positive, and still with the topic of tourism. And a lot of you, even us included, might also be excited for this, as well as the popular Maya Bay will reopen finally after the closure since June 2018. So it's been 3 years and a half. So it will reopen on New Year's Day, which is only a month and a half away. So the Natural Resources and Environment Minister, Warawut Silapa Asha, along with Permanent Secretary Jatupan Burutpat and senior officials of the ministry, observed the rehabilitation of Maya Bay at Hanoparatara Mukok PP National Park in Krabi province. So the minister saw the construction of the port at Losama Bay, which will be the pickup and drop-off point for tourists traveling to Maya Bay, and the rehab of coral reef. Where I would say the Maya Bay has attracted tourism around the world for so many years, and resulting in excessive or over tourism, which of course subsequently adversely affected its overall environment, especially the coral reefs. So during the closure, there have been a lot of rehabilitation efforts, and many coral reefs grown at that time. So now it is time to open the Maya Bay, because things are much improved now. But a bit of restriction still, as speedboats would not be allowed to moor in front of the bay, but will have to dock at the Losama Bay instead, where up to 8 boats are allowed at a time at the pier. And tourists will be allowed to swim no further than 50 meters off the beach, as coral reefs are being planted there. Still, the effort's not done. So Maya Bay will open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and will be limited to only 300 tourists per day to reduce congestion, which means also that each tourist will be allowed there for only 1 hour at a time. So, of course, this world-famous beach was the main filming location of the 2000 Hollywood film The Beach, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, if you still remember. So it was closed for 3.5 years because moats, coral reefs there, not just only there, but also other parts of Thailand had been damaged by this excessive tourism. And the numbers of international tourists were on the rise each year to a record high of 40 million arrivals in 2019. And of course, this is actually really great news. Probably not good for both of us, Kunat, as we're planning a trip there before January the 1st. So, but well, we'll be there with fewer tourists then. We'll see.
Well, it is definitely good news. Yeah, like you just said, unfortunately, it will reopen on New Year's Day, and we've already planned our trips to gonna be even before that. But anyway, the over tourism has always been an issue for so many years, especially popular places like Maya Bay and other places as well. And with the crowding, overcrowding, all the tourists just all together, all one place, it really affected the overall environment. And that was the reason why Maya Bay had to close for more than 3 years for the coral reefs and the overall environment to improve without the tourists. But having the what do you call it, the reopening of Maya Bay at the beginning of next year, this will be definitely good news, because for those who wish to visit for once in a lifetime, that is like a great experience. And of course, we would love to go there, to be honest.
Well, there's next year, of course. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Thai PBS World Tonight. Do catch us like this every weekday at 7 p.m. right here on Facebook and YouTube Live. For all the top stories, we have explainers for you, and also don't miss out cheeky commentaries.
And by the meantime, don't forget to follow us on social media as well as our website, thaipbsworld.com, for all the latest updates as well as analyses. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ